people who watch my videos. This time we're doing drums. See, these are drumsticks. I'm going to hit drums. The drums are here. You can't see them. I'll turn it. It's fine. Anyway, we're going to talk a bit about practicing and checking what you're doing. Getting reference for, okay, am I playing this correctly? Thinking about how you're playing and reviewing how it goes. So one aspect of that will be taking a moment every once in a while you're playing a beat to say, am I playing the same beat I did when I started? Am I at the same tempo I started? So there'll be things we're talking about using a metronome. We'll be talking about counting, things like that. So let's just look at a few examples for this and go from there. So the first one I'm going to show you is a swing, just a swing, simple swing. I'm not going to add a lot of the extra stuff. I'm going to do hi-hat and ride cymbal. I'm going to show you the difference between two feels that sometimes people get turned around in how they feel their swing. So we're going to look at that, the skip to the next beat kind of feel. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so for our first example, we're going to look at double checking that we're swinging properly. Now, swing is usually counted, in my brain at least, in a triplet feel, going triplet, 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 but having the quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, eighth, or I'll count it 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to subdivide the triplets with my mouth, and I'm going to play the swing part on the ride cymbal like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. So that's what it's supposed to be. That's supposed to be the swing feel. Now, a common change to that is sometimes making the skip beat either a little earlier or a little late, and commonly it's done on the 16th beat. People make it a little robotic. So instead of being triplets, triplet, triplet, some people might play it as 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So here's that one. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So it's a later feel and it feels really square based on this 4 count. Now let's compare those side by side. I'm going to play the triplet feel, then I'm going to play the 16th feel. So here we go. A 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. So there's the triplet feel. Now with the 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. And so with those two examples, we want to make sure we're swinging properly, having that slightly earlier skip beat. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. And that's the check there. I double check that every once in a while that I am keeping the 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4 as I'm playing to make sure my skip beat on the ahs of 2 and 4 are staying that slightly earlier than the 16th feel. Alright, so hopefully that swing thing made sense. Now we're going to look at another check that I do is every once in a while, if you don't have a metronome with you, what are you doing? There should really be a metronome with you. If you're playing drums, you're a rhythm section person, you should have that with you. So I might start a metronome, get a sense of the count in my head, play for a while. Then pull out the metronome again, turn it back on, and see how close I am to where I started. Just every once in a while, like, it's a good idea to practice with it constantly, but even take those breaks from it, try to use your internal clock, and see how close you get to it, just to try to develop a sense of what your own personal clock is. Get an idea for it. So, oh, do I rush normally? Do I drag it? And find that balance so you can work on that. So let's take a look at that, how I'd actually do that. Alright, so I'm going to run a metronome now to show you that demonstration of checking, making sure my tempo is consistent. So here we go, I'm going to play swing beat, and I'm going to start it at 110 beats per minute. So here we go, here's what it sounds like. So I'm going to prove that hopefully I stay pretty consistent. So here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, that's not bad, but I'll do that every once in a while to double check. This tempo's not bad for me. Usually it's when I'm at a slower tempo, quite slow, but slower, or I'm at something ridiculous, like 180 beats per minute or something. I might have a tendency to alter that tempo as time goes on. So it's a good idea to check that out every once in a while. Make sure you're using your metronome at home to double check those things. Alright, another check that's really important when you're drumming is to make sure your drum beats are consistent, because you're playing with other musicians, especially your bass player. You need to make sure the rhythm that you're laying down together is the same. And so the bass player might be like on his own path. He has the, I don't know, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, something like that. Or it's a different rhythm, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There are a few different rhythms that go on, but if you are continually changing what you're laying down as your bass and snare pattern, you're going to confuse the other musicians. So every once in a while, in my head, I make a double check of what I'm playing. So let me just show you an example of that. Alright, so here's a quick example of just, keeping that steadiness of a beat and double checking every once in a while. I'm going to start out simply. Doing a standard dotted quarter eighth note feel in the bass drum and in a rock feel. So here's what it'll sound like. 2, 3, 4. It's pretty simple, right? Make sure 1, 2, and 3, 4 is going on, right? But say I'm playing along and something like this happens. There was that third measure there that I switched to the bass being on beats 1, and then the next 2 eighth beats would be the 3 and, where that changed the rhythm, that changed the feel. So especially when you're starting to be more complicated, you have to make these checks more and more often, double checking that you're doing it correct. Now, things like using a camera can be extremely helpful in this to reference what maybe you made a mistake, and you didn't really realize it. But being able to mentally check, is the beat that I started with, is it the same as before? And also checking with your bass player. So here's an example of a little more complicated. I'm going to play same kind of feel, except I'm gonna instead of keeping it a simple 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the bass, I'm gonna add some ghost notes in the snare just so you can hear what it sounds like, and I'm gonna be trying to keep it a consistent feel. So let's look what that will sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's that. Now if I were to change that, I might, confuse the bass player. So here's what something like that would look like. 2, 3, 4. So there I changed it up a bit. I kept moving as it went on, started adding stuff. And that's where you're going to confuse the rest of the people you're playing with. So it's something to avoid, and mentally try to check, is what I'm playing the same as what I started with? Alright, so those are 3 examples that I use when it comes to checking how I practice. Making sure my drumming is consistent, and so I use make sure you can swing for jazz drummers. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's still a really important aspect. Using a metronome, being consistent with your timing, checking, not just having the metronome playing the whole time. Play it at the start, count it in, subdivide, come back, finish your phrase, finish what you're jamming with, and see if you're at the same speed. And the other one was being consistent with your beat, making sure what you're laying down to start with hasn't changed. And that can be as subtle as just your bass drum playing a slightly different rhythm. And so again, 3 examples, but there are many more that I use. Those are just, I'll explain them to my students, so you can come take lessons with me if you think that's a cool thing to do. Through Mouth to Music, of course. Yeah, and I hope you liked the video. You can go down and hit the like button, get notified, get subscriptions, all the things. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, and thanks for checking out this video. Check out the other ones. I know it's not all drumming. There's bass and there's guitar, but check them all out. Thanks for checking this one again. See you later.